Virtue or vice, gravity or grace, ascension or descension. Capricorn is about choices, the manner in which we accomplish our tasks, pursue our ambition, and master life's challenges. The spirit animal for this new moon is the goat, symbolizing determination, drive, and resilience. Qualities that help us move forward, no matter what's going on. Hey there, Truth Seeker. Welcome to the Star Kittens community where we discuss 13-sign astrology. Are you in alignment with your divine design? Do you want to master the metaphysical reality? Open the doors of perception. Each planetary body is an archetype, a template, if you will, that helps us interpret human behavior in the world around us. The more awake and aware we are, the more synchronicity will show up in your life. Our focus today is the Capricorn new moon. We will spotlight and interpret the conjunction with Icarus, Pluto, and Mercury. To help us reach more souls with this important message, please like, share, and subscribe. There's a lot going on, so let's jump in. Hello there, David.
Hello.
A beautiful sunny Sunday here. Finally, it seems like summer has arrived. How are you feeling about this upcoming new moon?
Yes, super excited about this, as I am with all of our readings. And, just looking back on that, the previous one too on governance, I've listened to that a couple of times again. And, really think that this one here today on Capricorn and that last one in governance work hand in hand. But it's a big year and in so many ways. And, for humanity, and as I mentioned last reading, of course, when you add up the numbers, for some who follow numerology, it's a 9 year, which means generally that we're at the end of a 9 year cycle. So that in and of itself is probably going to present for us individually and collectively a number of opportunities and challenges as we navigate through these tricky times together.
Yes, that's right. So the sun is about to move into Capricorn. We are recording this on Sunday, the 19th of January. And for those people that are listening, the new moon is occurring on the 30th of Jan here in New Zealand, and the sun moon are conjunct at 9 degrees Capricorn. So as I've already said in the introduction, it is also conjunct to Icarus, and we'll be talking about Mercury and Pluto as well. So what is the introduction for us?
I guess the overall is that this is a very practical lunation, a very practical 28-day cycle, and it's focused on the physical world. There's a little woo-woo or airy-fairy here. It's very much focused on the here and now. Capricorn overall, we think is about achievement, accomplishment, and the fulfillment of goals and objectives. And it's about what we do rather than what we say. So it's simple in that context, insofar as Capricorn really asks us, as does a new moon, to examine the inputs and the outputs in our lives in terms of work, very specifically, and career. Now, work and career is different things to different people. Whatever it means for you is the context we're referring to here. Capricorn asks us, as does this new moon, what do we do with our time? And where do we place our attention? Are we focused and resolute, or are we divided and distracted? The spirit animal of the goat symbolizes determination, drive, and resilience. And, look, every day that I do exercise, or most days I do exercise, I walk past a couple of goats, and You know, I often see them eating thorns and thistles and bracken and all sorts of things, and but that's just the goats. So they are very hardy creatures, and that is the spirit animal of Capricorn. We're going to spend a bit of time today talking about, where appropriate. I like to bring in other metaphysical and divination disciplines. And in this case, we're going to look at the tarot for Capricorn, which is the Devil card. Very much in the Rider-Waite deck, which is, and I thank you, a friend of mine gave me these, and she knows who she is. Um, the Devil card, I think, is going to, and by looking at that in the context of this new moon, we're going to tease out quite a lot of the symbology in that card and a lot of crossovers here to astrology as well. But briefly, for those that are aware, that Devil card depicts two figures, a man and a woman, and they're bound by chains. The chains represent responsibilities. They also represent our liberation. A little bit counterintuitive responsibilities. They can be incredibly liberating, or they can be incredibly enslaving. So, Capricorn is about our personal judgment. This is about taking stock, reviewing and assessing our achievement against material goals and gains that we have set for ourselves, whatever they are. Pluto's role, briefly, is to help us, or is to give us a pathway. We call it the Plutonic pathway, and we'll touch on that in a bit, to help us overcome limitations that are hindering our achievement. Icarus, the asteroid Icarus, is the metaphor or the archetype of calculated risks. And I like the expression nothing ventured, nothing gained to describe Icarus's role here. And finally, Mercury is asking us to think about our relationship with the commercial world and the economic system in this context.
Thank you. We've had a few people come across our ways that I believe that they were an Aquarian. They embraced that Aquarian energy, but it turns out that at the time of their birth, the sun was actually in Capricorn, and they've got such resistance of embracing that energy, because I think there's a few things in astrology that have such a bad rep. One of them is having Capricorn as your sun sign and Saturn being there. Another one, I was out for a waka ama pedal, and one of the people I was pedaling with, I asked, when's your birthday? And they said, oh, the 24th of November. And they were like, oh no, I don't want to be a Scorpio. And it's those couple of signs that have such a bad vibe to them. Whereas for me, Saturn, when I was going through my first Saturn return, it was such a helpful guardian to have with me in my life. It helped me to stay focused. So yes, how can you describe Capricorn in your way?
And of course, just for clarity, Saturn is the planet that oversees the Capricorn sign. So often when we're thinking of any sign, we'll often refer to the ruler or the guardian planet, and in this case, of course, it is Saturn. But going back just on that Aquarius too, in the days when there were, so maybe we're going back hundreds of years, perhaps longer. Originally, astrology was based on just seven planets, and uh, the Capricorn, oh, sorry, Saturn rather, was actually because the seven planets and 12 houses, Saturn was actually seen as the overseer or the guardian or the ruling planet, quote unquote, over both Aquarius and Capricorn. So there's a lot of linkages between the two, but yeah, clearly one is an earth sign and one is an air sign, and furthermore, Capricorn is the pinnacle of it's, if you think of a triangle with the geometric shape, each of these energies, Capricorn is the peak of physical energies, and of course those other two are Taurus and Virgo. But the Devil card, as I showed before, and I'm going to put it up and we'll probably put it on the screen as well. The horned goat. And this is an allegory, which means it has multiple meanings. It also has some morals for us to digest and to think about. So, at the time of Capricorn, let's have a look at this card. It's an evocative card, as you mentioned before. There are a lot of aspects of astrology that are given a bad rap, and Saturn's role in the astrological mosaic certainly is one of those. And if there's a card that evokes a lot of emotion and recoil, it's certainly this card here, the horned goat. Many instinctively shy away from the imagery, and that's actually part of the key to understanding Capricorn. In the card, we will see, or you can see that there are this horned goat figure sitting on top of this black box with these two humans. Now, part of that symbolism is that the wild instincts that we have in all of us that we're trying to suppress. Now, sometimes those wild instincts can be can closet us in and can protect us from, backlash from the world. But in many regards, sometimes the wild instincts and the ambition can flow in Capricorn, because this is where you get people who are ruthlessly ambitious and they want to command and conquer the world and quell competition no matter what. So that is an aspect of Capricorn, and that wild sort of nature embodied in the goat and the devil figure, the horned figure sitting on the black box here, is to do with both sides of both controlled ambition, but also the unleashing and the loosening of that in order to get what you want, and that can be rather a difficult energy if that's what you're confronting in your life. I mean, Capricorn and the card is really about our human experience of the material world. And people love the word matrix, but this is the nuts and bolts of it. This card here has sitting at the top, a creature that has got multiple names. Some call it Pan, some call it Baphomet, some call it Lucifer, some call it Satan. And many ascribe that creature or these creatures to the control matrix that we apparently live in. Now, the idea of Capricorn and thus interpreting the energies of this new moon or this lunation is that we are constantly, as humans, we are constantly faced by temptation, and we can become consumed by our desires. And the male, if you look carefully, the male figure has his tail on fire, and that tail on fire signifies being inflamed by passion, and the female's tail is a bunch of grapes. And grapes in this context represents overindulgence, wine, and the abandonment of our senses. So briefly, the experiences of pleasure and pain are part of the Capricorn experience as well. Guilt and shame sometimes is associated with achievement and success, and that'll be one of the reasons why, among many, why some people don't really go after what it is that they want to. There's nothing wrong with material possessions, and in fact, we need them to live any kind of life, no matter where on the spectrum you are. You do need some material acquisition, and you do need to have drive and ambition, goals and objectives. That is unavoidable. In fact, that's part of the rules of the game. So, guilt and shame can be part of, there are plenty of people who achieve under that Capricorn energy and often feel like they've got imposter syndrome. They feel like, this came too easy, or, they count the cost of that and they figure out that perhaps it wasn't worth it in the end. And that can result in a lot of guilt and shame. So those pleasure, pain, guilt, shame are very much emotions associated with Capricorn, with both sides. But those emotional reactions to Capricorn achievement, ambition, and the drive to go after our goals comes back to conditioning. And that conditioning can come from our families and our culture, our whether we were encouraged as kids or as developing youths or teenagers even to recognize our success and to celebrate it. Or in many cases, there are a lot of sort of, oh, look, just, kind of be be seen but not heard, or sort of play more of that wallflower role when it comes to Capricorn achievement. Again, both of these energies are out there in the field. The card, it talks about being swept up in the desires and the urges and surges of achievement and ambition, and we can become slaves to our vices. The chains that, if you look closely, that are loosely around the necks of the male and the female, if we become slaves to ambition and slaves to achievement and slaves to goals and projects, these chains can tighten around our neck. They can be like a noose. However, the Capricorn energy is also saying to us at this time, recognize that there's more to life than material gain and material success. And part of the liberation and balance that we can achieve by looking at other aspects of reality, which are, of course, the mental and the emotional and the spiritual. The pentagram that you see in the card here is a reminder that materialism can destroy us. And there's an expression that I like. I mentioned last week about these little mantras that I have that I've had for sometimes decades. And one of them is, what shall it profit a man or woman if he or she should gain the whole world but lose his own soul? I believe that's probably come out of a Bible verse somewhere. The goat wings on that card represent the dark forces that swirl in the background, and many assign those dark forces to the work of Pan, Baphomet, the Lucifer, or Satan. But those wings, those goat wings, can also represent the transformative power of Pluto, which effectively is actually just about awareness, and we'll touch on Pluto in a moment. The black box on which the horned goat figure sits represents, in some interpretations, the throne of matter. In others, in the East particularly, it is considered to be the Holy of Holies. That is a stone that people touch and are blessed by. And in the West, though, this represents our unexplored depths of our wild nature. The open hand means that everything is open to the eye of awareness, which in occult speak means enlightenment. So when we peer into the black box and we peer into the depths of our nature, and the open hand is that everything is open to the eye of awareness, which again is called enlightenment or illumination. The triangular head, again, a Capricornian energy, represents that negative energies and focus only on the negative or the vice side of achievement and accomplishment can pull us downward. But then there's an expression also that gravity can pull us down, and grace can lift us up. Grace and gravity are the two counterweights here for Capricorn. The word grace comes from the Latin gratis, which actually means grateful, which means to count your blessings as a counterpoint, as a counterweight to negativity. And give praise, give thanks to the universal intelligence, to source, to your guides, even to your earthly family, to people that have helped you. Be humble in your achievements, in other words, gravity and grace. The horns, I touched on that earlier, is the primordial state of being. That's what it symbolizes. And at the base of existence, regardless of what we do in the physical world, nothing really changes. There are three ceaseless and unending cycles taking place, and they are creativity, destruction, and equilibrium. Capricorn with Mercury, Mercury is conjunct the new moon, brings choice. We think of the two pillars of Gemini, but this is about choice. So therefore, which path? Is it the path of virtue, or is it the path of vice? Is it the path of empowerment, or is it the path of slavery? The pursuit of material gain should therefore be balanced with spiritual, mental, and emotional well-being. And we are being asked and tasked at this new moon with reflecting, with thinking about, regardless of where we are in our material journey, where we are in the path of life, what is the cost of your achievement so far? And Icarus represents that, taking calculated risks on the one side, as opposed to blind ambition on the other. And we have that expression, which was said before, of Icarus, is that you look before you leap, i.e., you prepare and then you take your risk, or you leap before you look. So you have that sort of bugger it all attitude and just jump into the waters and come what may and back yourself. But that's the Icarus energy coming through at this new moon.
Thank you. Hopefully, people listening to this would be stoked to find out that they're actually a Capricorn rather than an Aquarian, having that beautiful, just that you're able to distinguish, with the help of a Mercury energy of making the right choice for you at that time. Yes. We've spoken a fair few times about Pluto because it's a pretty big deal that Pluto has now fully entered Capricorn. In 1776 was the last time that happened. So if you are curious to know more about that, please have a scroll through the videos we have on our YouTube channel. But how do you see Pluto being conjunct? So Pluto at the time of this new moon is sitting at almost 2 degrees Capricorn, and as mentioned before, the Sun and Moon at 9 degrees. So that beautiful 10-degree orb means that they are conjunct. How do you see that Plutonic energy playing out?
Yeah, the cool thing about Pluto, of course, and you've touched on one aspect of Pluto is the big picture, and of course, 1776. Again, yep, I encourage people to go back and have a look at our video about that. But this is on a very personal level. And as we are reflecting, we've just talked about Capricorn being ambition and accomplishment and the pursuit of goals and objectives in the material world. Effectively to take care of ourselves and our families as well. But as we're doing a review and an assessment, as we're pondering our plight, as we're looking over our life path, and the way that we have navigated to this point today and how we're planning to go forward as well, we may become aware of limitations. Now, when we consider our career, when we consider our material acquisitions, when we consider the cost of that in terms of work-life balance, the emotional and physical toll that it may have taken, the extent to which we have nourished or neglected our spirit through graceful actions or mindfulness and meditation, or that we have indulged our passions through mindless consumption, all of those types of issues may throw up for us limitations, and this is where Pluto comes in. So as we encounter these limitations, they're really going to be in the form of mental or mindset, emotional blockages or traps that are getting in the way of or impeding our achievement, our accomplishment, and our pursuit of goals and objectives. They could be karmic limitations, they could be spiritual limitations, and as I've mentioned, physical limitations as well. And very simply, we coined the phrase Plutonic pathway so that as you're doing a review, and reviews and introspection come up they can come up all the time. We talk about meditation and mindfulness practice being a key to understanding your divine design and what it is that you are on this planet to accomplish. Um, the you know but it's inevitable that at some point there's going to be something that comes up in the mental space or emotional, karmic, spiritual, or physical. So the Plutonic pathway gives us sort of a template, if you like, a way to navigate through that, and it has three parts. The first one is that we transmute negative energies, and if a negative situation comes up and it has a negative charge, or we're triggered by it, the first thing to confronting that using the Plutonic pathway is awareness. Very simply, we need to be aware of it and we need to acknowledge it. The next part of the Plutonic pathway is that once we've become aware and we've acknowledged something, a negative influence in our life, a catalyst, a trigger, we can move to transcending the limitations that is creating. These negative energies that are identified, and we get to the core of what it is. It might be a difficult relationship in our lives. It might be something physical. It might be an emotional, you talk about trapped emotions in some of your work. Whatever it is, a karmic bind as well. often the way, once we're aware and have acknowledged that it is influencing us and rippling into our lives energetically, and therefore getting in the way of and impeding our achievement, our accomplishment, and our pursuit of goals, Capricorn, we can transcend that limitation through the process of reframing. And reframing is simply, once we've acknowledged something, it's about looking at it differently and coming at it from a different angle. And often, the way that we see and describe our limitations in our lives is that we tell the same story about it. We may get stuck in a rut of saying, well, it's always the problem is this or the problem is that, and we think that we've identified it, but in fact, sometimes that approach brings us to a dead end or a cul-de-sac, if you like, where there's just nowhere further to go. And often you and I talk about the laws of cause and effect, and we say, okay, well, if that's happened, then what? And we ask the question, then what? And often that takes you beyond the boundary of that limitation, which the limitation often is just the way we've described something. So we can transcend these limitations by reframing it. And reframing effectively is just telling another story and looking at another perspective. So the Platonic pathway is, if you want to transmute negative energies, you need to acknowledge them and become aware of them. Step number one. Step number two, to transcend that limitation, we need to reframe it, which is really just a bit of mental gymnastics, and playing a game, and even just role playing in your mind, or what's that expression? You fake it till you make it. You just act in a different way, which leads to the third part of the Platonic pathway, which is transmute. So transform rather, transform. So we transmute negative energies through awareness and acknowledging. We transcend limitation through reframing and perspective, and we transmute situations, transform. I keep saying transmute. We transform uh, situations and scenarios with positive action and intention and determination, fueled by an emotional, by emotion. So we have to act. It's not good enough to become aware, to acknowledge negative energies or influences in our lives. It's not good enough just to reframe. We have to take the third step of transformation, which is to act on positive intention. And there's a number of ways that we can achieve that. Setting goals, again, Capricorn, being ambitious, moving forward with a plan and a path, which is very much that Capricornian energy, is a key piece to how we invoke the Platonic pathway in our lives. And Mercury helps with this too. And Mercury really is about getting into the detail. This is about mind mapping these negative influences and energies, deconstructing them, and so that we can understand what is the limitation, what is the root of it. Is it mental? Is it physical? Is it spiritual? Is it karmic? Is it emotional, for example? And from there, that Mercury energy, which is very left brain analytical, but is perfect when we're reviewing and thinking about our life, where we are, what cost, what's the toll of accomplishment and achievement, what did it cost us to get to the top of whatever it is that we imagined. We can think in terms of Mercury also as, what are the opportunities to grow from here? What are the strengths that I have and to leverage and to play those cards again and again so that they keep generating success in my life? But also acknowledging, what are the weaknesses that I need to work on? And what are the threats also to our well-being? One of the biggest threats to accomplishment, like I mentioned before, is blind ambition or blind spots, very simply. So all of that is on the table when we're doing this life review, and it need not be a major, war and peace type exercise where we go back through every aspect of our lives. It might just be, what's top of mind right now? What is it that you want to accomplish, say, in the next quarter, the next 6 months, the next 12 months, as we're at the beginning of the year? And then looking back, what did I achieve in the last 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months? This, as I mentioned at the beginning, Capricorn is very practical, it's very grounded, it's very mundane, it's very almost yeah, it's very focused on the physical world and what's going on um, with what we can touch in our lives and see in our lives as well.
Hmm. So I've got a couple of stories that I want to add to that. I expect all to do with that Plutonic pathway. Couple of months ago, I think I shared with you, the audience, about what I do when I go to bed, how I tell my different body parts that I love it. And I've set that into that is something I do every night now. So that's a pretty good habit. And you and I have spoken about, if you want a change in your life, you need to make a change in your life. And I've been thinking about my beautiful mind, just thinking about starting meditations again. And I woke up on the 1st of January this month and I was like, if I want to change my life, I need to make a change in my life. And I have been able to get up every morning and do 30 to 40-minute meditation before I start my day. And it's just, for me, yes, I've got a massive list of all the things I would like to do in a day and have that as a habit, but I'm a kind of person that I need to make something a habit first, and then I can add something else. And so by just having small pieces that I slowly incorporate in my life, I'm able to sustain all these changes that I'm making. And I'm noticing the difference in just my ability to, when I am confronted by negative emotions or negative things in my life, that I'm able to become aware, and then I can change them and take action to make that change a lot quicker than, I don't know, 6 to 12 months ago. So if you are dealing with some negative thoughts in your life or things you would like to change, maybe just make a subtle change, just a small one, and incorporate that and then see how that can transform your life. Yes. So beautiful information about Capricorn, Saturn, Pluto, Mercury, and Icarus. How would you like to bring that all together?
Yeah, and it's as you were saying that too, I was reminded of something that I learnt in the Capricorn world of commerce and business, probably when I think I'd just started work, so I was maybe 16 or 17, and I was in a sales role, and the manager sat down with me at a piece of paper, and he said, your success will be driven by, and this is such a Mercury, Pluto, Capricorn little story, all mixed together. Icarus as well, of the calculated risks. But he drew this grid and he said, your life revolves around four things, and he called it cash, KASH, and it's an acronym, and K stands for knowledge, A stands for attitude, S stands for skills, and H stands for habits. And he says, as a salesperson, if you develop good knowledge of, whether it be your market, but particularly yourself, and how you will react in different situations or circumstances, then you will automatically be working on your attitude. And, I remember an expression too from back then from a famous motivational thinker. This was in the days before YouTube and even round the clock television and podcasts and things. But there was a character that I used to listen to called Zig Ziglar, and he used to say that attitude equals altitude. So, in other words, your mindset determines how high or how low you will fly. And I've never forgotten some of these things. And of course, the skills that you develop, what you're talking about there is, you've got to develop. Firstly, you have the knowledge, and for you, it was the knowledge of this will benefit me in some way. I can work on my well-being or work on my, um, some aspect of achieving, helping me to achieve my goals and objectives by being mindful and meditative. And then that affects your mindset, your altitude, and your attitude. He also used to say, Zig Ziglar, you need to check up from the neck up. So sometimes when you have a negative experience, or you're down in the mouth, or you're struggling, again, very Capricorn energy and Pluto energy to transform that, is sometimes all it requires is a check up from the neck up. And what he was saying is that, often in sport they say this too, that the top 10 inches determines so much of your success. So your mindset is key, as are skills. So working on skills, that could be part of the message here as we're wrapping this up, is that 2025 may be saying, what skills do I need to work on? I've been doing some study the last 2 years, and just developing my skill set, and the empowerment and the sense of accomplishment that that's given me is huge. And of course, there's habits, and we are what we repeatedly do. That was a Brian Tracy expression that I learned again when I was 17 or 18, first starting out in the workforce. We are what we repeatedly do. And if we repeatedly act in a way that is working against the achievement of our goals and accomplishment of our tasks and objectives, Capricorn, then we are destined to repeat that. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So all of that sort of blends into this final sort of bringing it together piece. Um, but overall, this is again about reflection. It's about taking stock. It's about reviewing where you're at on the path that you have set for yourself, and being clear, is it your path, or is it a path that's been set for you? And that distinction is very important, because that comes back to conditioning. Sometimes we're doing things not because we really want to, not because we're in alignment with our divine design. We may not even be emotionally committed to the path that we're on, but we're doing it because we feel out of a sense of duty and obligation that we need to, because the family needs me to, or mum and dad expected this of me, or, we've always had doctors in the family, or we've always had this or that, and so therefore I'm going to do it. But maybe it's time to break free of those limitations. The questions are the pursuit of success, however you define success for you, the pursuit of accomplishment and achievement. What is the cost of it? And it may be a time to plan and recalibrate if necessary. And if not, just keep going. If you're a roaring success in whatever it is that you're doing, keep doing it. If you need a few tweaks, make them too. This is a good time to do that. You've got the tailwinds behind you. Cosmic tailwinds are behind you. Capricorn is about legacy. If there's one word for Capricorn, it would be legacy. And then the question is, think about an epitaph. This is again an exercise I was taken through years and years ago. Again, I was only 17 at the time, and I'm now 57, so that's 40 years ago. And that same manager said to me, think about what you would want to have written on your gravestone. Like, what would you want to have on your epitaph? What would you want to be known by? So think about that, perhaps. That's what legacy is. What did your life mean? And the way that you act now will work towards that. That is all about Capricorn achievement. And we talked about the Devil card, the allegory of mastery of the material world. And the choices of Gemini are to descend into vice or ascend into virtue. The awareness of temptations to cut corners, to tread on others, to be consumed. Virtue or vice is the question. And finally, recognize our limitations, confront these, and transmute the negative energies in your life, the negative situations in your life through awareness. Transcend the limitations through reframing, and transform situations and scenarios by taking positive action, propelled by your emotions. And that's really the summary of this Capricorn new moon.
Exciting. Thank you for enlightening us with the positive aspects of Capricorn and Saturn. If this resonated with you and you've been listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can find all our videos on YouTube. If you would like to know whether you are still an Aquarian or a Capricorn or any other star sign, hit us up for a chat or a natal reading. We would love to hear from you. You can find us on Telegram, Facebook. All of the beautiful places and links are in the description. So thank you so much for watching. David, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us.
You're welcome. Namaste.
Namihi.
Until next time.
That's right. Until next time. Goodbye.